Welcome back everyone, I'm Danny the Dinosaur Drawer, and today I'm going to be showing you all how to draw the Indominus Rex level 40, but this time it is Gen 2. We are going to be drawing the Generation 2 Indominus Rex, so I'm so excited. I've got my mechanical pencil here. It is a Graph Gear 500 mechanical pencil. I've got an eraser, and we will be finishing off this drawing using some pens, and then possibly this yellow pencil to color in the cool stripes of the Generation 2 Indominus Rex. And with that being said, let's begin with the outline. So our Indominus Rex is going to be facing to the left, and the head's going to be right about here. So draw a oval shape. Don't make it too big. It's got a large head, but we want to leave space for the rest of the body on our paper. It's got a draw like a backwards S shape to represent the vertebrae in the neck. Put in a larger oval to represent the body. Then a circle right about here to represent the hip. It's not exactly a side view, it's sort of like a front 3/4 view. This leg is going to be pretty long. The ground will be right about here, I'm guessing. And this leg is going to be actually lifted up in like a walking motion. So that's kind of cool. Then of course we'll have the arms, which are nice and long, much longer than T-Rex's arms. Put the claws in there. And then of course we have the tail, which is going to snake off. So it's a pretty good outline. I want to flesh it out a little bit, so we get a better idea of what this will look like once it's finished. So I'll have the foot of the Indominus Rex right about there. It's like lifted up. This area is going to be a little bit confusing because we got some arms overlapping the lifted foot and the leg there. And it's got a bunch of quills, so those might be a little bit hidden, unfortunately, but that's okay. The body's actually going to be a little bit thicker than our outline shows. And of course it's going to be completely covered in spikes. Those really cool black spikes. Its neck is going to reach upwards. It's got a slightly longer neck than T-Rex and a little bit thinner because it is part raptor, and raptors have more of a like graceful neck. Let me flesh out the tail real quick. So now it's beginning to look a little bit more like your average theropod dinosaur. So that is good news. Spikes, putting everything in rather lightly because we will be doing a pen stage at the end. Now the head's going to be large, and I really don't want to make it look like a T-Rex. That's my goal today, is to make this look like the actual Indominus Rex, because a lot of times my drawings end up looking like T-Rex. Gonna have its quills. Indominus Rex has a very unique face, and it's kind of hard to capture sometimes. And we're gonna have the jaw slightly opened. Oh, it's already looking so cool. Gotta love the Indominus Rex. Alright guys, you might want to take out your eraser and just do some erasing work, getting rid of some of the original outline that we don't need anymore. Can get in the way later on, so I'm going to go ahead and erase a little bit. Even the ground here that I drew out, I'm going to change that and put it a little bit lower. Maybe right about there, because I want this leg to be a little bit lower, a little bit longer. And the body I will probably make a tiny bit thicker because the head looks nice at that size, so we'll just have to make certain things a little bit different. But it's all perspective as well, because the head is the closest object to us, so it's going to look larger automatically. But I think we are ready to move on to the next stage, which is the refinement stage. So we will begin work on the head now, and work from like left to right. So the eye is going to be pretty much where I put it, maybe a little bit lower. It's got a really cool red eye. at generation 2. Put a little bit of a lid over it and some wrinkles underneath, like so. It's really cool. It's got more of a round cavity. And it's got a brow, but its brow is not like that of T-Rex. It's less prominent. And then its mouth sort of has like a downhill curve at the tip, like so. Let me just erase some of this to get the perfect line. Then it's going to have a round cavity right about here. Put that in. It's going to have a very small nostril at the very tip of the mouth. It's going to have another cavity right about here. And then the top here has some cool spikes that we can put in. And then it's got these big black spikes that show that it is, in fact, a level 40 creature. So we can put in these thicker black spikes. And then of course it's got those classic quills. The Indominus Rex was the OG dinosaur that had quills. The Scorpius Rex and Indoraptor are both copies of the Indominus Rex. He is the father of those creatures, the original hybrid. So the head looks pretty good. We will of course add more refinement later. It's got a bunch of stripes that go up, look really cool. But we can put in the teeth. It's going to have very cool teeth, all of different sizes. Don't make them too big. Indominus Rex has like average sized teeth, but what makes them scary is that they're very sharp and like crooked. And it's got a long bottom jaw. It's not going to be longer than the top jaw, but it is definitely going to be a long bottom jaw. And make it nice and thin so people can tell that this is not a T-Rex. Let me just erase the tip. I think it's a little bit too long. Sorry guys, I'm messing up a bit here. That looks good. So we can put in the teeth now. And then of course there's going to be a bunch of stripes, which we will add in the pen stage. Now we can begin with the neck. We're going to have a bunch of wrinkles on the bottom part. Like so. And this area is also going to be a little bit more shaded. Okay, so we have these black spikes that continue down the neck. And there's 2 rows of them. But these actually surprisingly vanish right about at the shoulder. The ones on the top do not though, so we'll make sure to put those in. So it's quite an ensemble here of large black spikes and quills. So it's kind of confusing, but we'll figure it out. And then right here, there's a small row of black spikes that continue along next to the large spikes. But we will focus on that a little bit later. I want to conquer the arms first, get those put in. And the arms are going to be moved a tiny bit forward than I had put in the outline. So if you're happy with where your arms are on your Indominus Rex, just leave them, it's fine. But in my case, I'm going to move them a little bit forward. It's got short upper arms, but longer forearms. And make sure to have the fingers really long and narrow. One thing that will make it not look like a T-Rex is if you make the arms long, and if you make the, well, obviously it has 3-fingered claws, So it's not a T-Rex, but yeah, just make the arms a little bit thin and long. I'm going to add the quills on the bottom of the forearm there. And this arm, we will barely see any of the upper arm, but we will see a bunch of the forearm. I'll try and get my hand out of the way. Yes, it's really cool long claws. Put quills in. And that looks pretty good. So the shoulder blade is going to be prominent here. I know you guys are going to say it's shrink wrapped, but that's what it looks like in the game, so what can I do? We have a bunch of stripes. And the stripes are actually pretty important later on. So make sure to leave some space for them. Okay, so the belly here is going to be obviously darker. We'll probably do a bunch of cross hatching there. This leg is going to be a little bit of a challenge, but I think we'll be able to do fine with it. It is lifted up off the ground because the Indominus Rex is taking a stride, taking a step forward, it looks like. So the toes, it's good to make the toes a little bit thicker near the front and make them a little bit thinner near the back like I just did. And then make the claw come out of that one toe. Then this middle toe is going to be the longest one. Go ahead and put that claw in. And then this toe, we will barely be able to see it. It's almost hidden, but make sure you put a tiny line to represent it. And that looks pretty good. Dinosaur feet are a big challenge. I think they'll always be, even for seasoned artists. And I'm going to make the leg a little bit thicker, just a little bit. Because when you imagine the knee, it'll be right about there, and then the other hip will be right about there. If we're looking through it, you know, if it was like an x-ray. Okay, so I think we should move on to the next leg, and then we will begin doing all the spikes. So this leg is a little bit of a challenge as well. In fact, legs are just hard to draw all the time, from different angles at least. So from this front angle, it's going to look quite thin. From the side angle, it would look much more meaty, but from this angle, it's actually thin. It's going to have a prominent knee. And then we're going to see the calf muscle there. And of course the foot, which will be right about here. So for the foot, I'm actually going to put these claws in first. Put the 3 claws in. And then I'll add the toes in afterward. Let me just get some of this mess out of the way. This is such a mess right here, but we'll erase it later. So these toes are going to look a little bit scrunched together, but I think it's still pretty good. It looks pretty accurate, I guess, to what the reference image looks like. Nice. I think that looks pretty good. Let me just clean it up a bit. Alright, I think we can move on. Well, let's just put a few refinement lines on this to show the shape. And of course each toe is going to have these scales on top of it. But we can add that later. It's not a really big deal. The spikes. So the spikes have a little row, as I said earlier, that continues right over the hip and then it stops. So that row stops there, and these big spikes continue all the way along the tail. And the biggest ones are right about here on the back. And then they gradually get smaller and smaller. So let me firm up this tail, give it a more defined line. Indominus Rex has a long tail, but it's thick, so it doesn't look ultra long. That's probably a good length. I need to do some erasing. This is probably one of my sloppier drawings I've done recently. And these spikes will slowly taper off. You can add a bunch of stripes. But I think we're getting close to the pen stage. Now that you have your pen out, we can begin tracing and just adding more detail to our drawing. And we'll begin with the head and work our way backwards. So I do not want this to look like a T-Rex at all. So I'm going to make some final adjustments on the head to make sure it doesn't look like our favorite dinosaur. I'll have these spikes come up here. Doing a lot of tracing right now, just copying the lines we put in earlier. You really want to make the Indominus Rex look kind of mean, you know. So put a bunch of wrinkles above its eye. And you can see that darkness makes it look more stern. Also, you can shade the top portions of each cavity. Like so. There's going to be some wrinkles coming up from the edge of the mouth. And then the black spikes start right about here. And these are pretty simple, we'll just color them in completely. And you can see why it's nice to draw in pen, because it gives great contrast. Makes everything pop out really nice. I forgot to mention that Indominus Rex sort of has like a spiky brow ridge, similar to like an Allosaurus. And that's one feature that will make it look more like the Indominus Rex and less like a T-Rex. And the quills are going to start right about here. So not following the outline exactly. So you can take your pens and erase some of the original lines we did. But I will say it's not good to erase when your ink is still drying, because it might smear. So you gotta be careful. Oops, that one doesn't look very sharp. I'll have to fix it. There, that's better. Guys, comment down below if you own the Indominus Rex Generation 2 in Jurassic World the Game. I currently do not, but it would be super cool, and I might do a video the day I get it. Because it looks so neat. I mean, regular Indominus Rex looks super cool also at level 40, but it's cool that they made Generation 2 on on the main dinosaurs, because it adds a nice twist to it. Maybe they'll come out with Generation 3, who knows? They should definitely do Generation 3 for like the popular dinosaurs, like Spinosaurus and T-Rex and Velociraptor. Alright, so this area is going to be very dark. This area between the two jaws at the back. So be sure to put that in. It almost looks like the Indominus Rex is wearing a mohawk. I just realized that. That's a little bit unfortunate, but it looks kind of cool. Remember to make the bottom jaw thin at the start and then very thick at the rear end. Okay, so I'm going to trace in the teeth right now. Try to get my hand out of the way. That's really good. Alright. Before we move on to the neck and everything, I want to add in the stripes that I've been talking about. So we can put those in. And then we will be coloring them in with the yellow pencil at the very end. So that's going to be very exciting. I've not done a color tutorial in like forever. So yeah, draw your stripes carefully. Make them follow the terrain of the face so they look realistic. And the key is to make them look organic and not, like man-made, even though Indominus Rex is like a hybrid and stuff. And the stripes will get smaller and more pointy. We actually should put in the nostril right about there. And on the bottom jaw, they're less prominent, but they're still there. Speaking of the bottom jaw, we've got to do some shading here. It's quite dark down here. So put in a bunch of lines for shading. I might even crosshatch. Add some refinement lines, some wrinkles, like we did in the top jaw. And now we should make our stripes a little bit more dark so they can be seen. In the top jaw we can also add just a little bit more rendering, I'd say, to give it some shape. And remember guys, more lines isn't always better. It's better to do like quality lines than quantity. So a lot of the right type of line will be good, but if you just do too many, like rendering lines and stuff like that, it's not going to look good. It'll make the face look overcomplicated. So right now I think it's at a good point, and I don't want to add too much more. I'm going to add some shading to these little spikes, but I think we can move on to the neck. Alright, so this bottom portion of the neck is going to be quite simple because it's rather dark. Let me switch out my pen. And we can do some more cross hatching, and right underneath the bottom jaw, make it like completely black for some nice contrast. And it continues to be dark right up to the arms. You could even use a Sharpie if you feel like it, because it is a big bunch of darkness. I always like the cross hatching, I don't know why, it just looks better. So I'm very satisfied with how it's looking right now. We can put in these spikes, make them nice and dark. I know when people see this drawing, they're going to say it looks like hair, but it is not hair. These are quills. But that's the problem with pen, guys. Like, if you commit to a line and you put it in, it's going to be very hard to erase it. So take your time, go slowly, pause the video if you need to. I'm sure you guys have already paused it once or twice throughout this tutorial, but yeah, pause when you need to catch up. Alright, so the spikes look pretty good. Behind the head of the Indominus Rex is going to be kind of dark and just a little side thing. And this is the midline right here, which is like a vein. And put in. It's really fun to take the drawings section by section, you know, because like you're focusing on one thing and then you move on to like you're starting with like the neck and then you do the arms and then the body and the legs, and then before you know it you're like, whoa, we're done with the drawing. It was like that fast. That's my favorite way to work on drawings, is by sections. So you gotta do the outline obviously first, but after that it's really cool to concentrate on little spots, and then it's sort of like it's almost like magic, you know, like suddenly the whole drawing has appeared. It's like when you're drawing a face, like you always focus really hard on the eyes, and then you might move on to the nose or whatever, and you're working on all those individual parts, and then eventually they all come together to make a bigger picture. Alright, so these stripes look pretty good. I want to add a few more just like rendering lines to the neck here to give it some more shape. So these lines are all rounded. They're not just straight up and down lines, they're like rounded. And again, we might have to, I can barely even see where the stripes are now. So we might have to redraw some of the stripes. I think, yeah, I think this is a stripe. I think this is a stripe. You guys can probably tell better than I can right now what the different stripes are. Oh, that's a stripe. That's a stripe. That's a stripe. The neck looks fantastic. Almost more realistic than the head, actually, at this point. So we can move on to the shoulder blade now. The shoulder blade is like one of those parts in between the parts. It's like not a very important part, but it sort of is, because without it, there would be like a blank spot in the drawing. So behind the arm, we want to do a bunch of shading as well. And the belly is going to be also shaded. So we can go ahead and do that really quick. So now that the belly is all shaded in, we can move on to the arms. Start off with this one. Put in the claws, which are black, by the way. I'll put in the quills. And then we can put a little bit of refining lines. Add some shading, of course. Okay, on the top of the different fingers, we'll add some scales, some lines like this. That looks pretty good. This arm is going to be a little bit more important since it is closer to us. We have a better view of it. It's important to make the fingers look kind of bony. Add the scales on top. Like so. And hopefully we'll be able to still see these quills even after we put in the leg behind it. Draw some curved lines here to show the shape of the arm. There's like almost, there's no stripes really on the arms. There are stripes, but they're not like the yellow ones. They're not the classic ones. So don't worry about it. That looks really good. We can move on to the leg now. This lifted leg. And I want to try and make the shading rather light, so we can still see the quills. So I'll have to resist my urge to crosshatch in this situation. Maybe a little bit right here to show some of the muscle in the leg. Yeah, let's move on to the feet. Let's put in the dew claw. Sometimes I forget to put in this little claw when I draw dinosaurs. So I guess they actually do have 4 toes in total. Alright, that foot actually looks really good. I like how it turned out. So let's put in the scales on top of the toe. And the toe, this toe here is going to be pretty much black, so don't worry about it too much. Do a bunch of shading at the bottom of the toe. And just darken the whole thing. That looks great. I like how this whole leg and foot looks. Might want to make it look a little bit rounder. Okay, I think we can move on to the torso, the main chunk of the body. So for the body, we're just going to have a bunch of lines showing the curvature of the belly. Indominus Rex is like a slender dinosaur. It's massive, but at the same time, it's got more of a, graceful physique, I'd say. It flows nicely. And that probably comes from the raptor genes, so makes it a very unique dinosaur. Because for its size, it's super nimble. It's able to fall on the ground and then jump right back up, like in that scene in Jurassic World when they shoot it with like a bazooka. It just jumps right back up after it takes the hit. You sort of feel a little bit sorry for the Indominus Rex by the end of the movie. I know it's the villain and everything, but you know, it is a man-made hybrid. Okay, so I'm going to erase these stripes really quick, or these spikes, I should say. And I'll redraw them. You guys don't have to do the same, but I just wanted mine to be spaced evenly. I wonder if Jurassic World the Game is going to let out some huge updates once Dominion comes out. Or maybe they'll come up with a whole new game. That would be really cool too. Okay, so these spikes are going to begin to fade at this point. And I might as well just erase the rest of them, because it'll save me the time of having to erase them after I draw the spikes. So I will draw this tail line. There we go. Looks good. And we'll just continue the row of spikes and make them get smaller and smaller. I really hope this drawing looks better than my Indominus Rex level 40 drawing I did like 4 years ago or something. I want to show that I've improved slightly from when I started this channel. If not, that would be kind of sad. But let's continue on with the leg. So the leg also has stripes, but they're not the colored ones. So I will put them in, but we're not going to color them. So. Or we could, I guess. We can do whatever you want, so it's not like there's a rule of any sort when it comes to art. I've been taking some classes in actually like drawing and stuff for school, but it's so much more fun to draw like what you want to draw, you know, and not what you're being forced to draw. It's like draw a circle and like make it shaded, like draw an orb, whatever. It's like that's so boring compared to drawing something you want to draw, like a dinosaur or a face or whatever you want to draw. A transformer, it could be anything. But when you're drawing something you really like, then it just becomes so much easier. Like yesterday for class, I had to draw 3 human skulls, or 3 views of the human skull, and it was fun, but not nearly as fun as drawing something I'm really into, like a Marvel character or something like that. I guess you could say they were like practice drawings for doing a Red Skull from Captain America. I've actually never drawn Red Skull, by the way. But we are just tracing in the lines we put in earlier at this point. The leg looks pretty good. I'm happy with how it's shaping up. Putting in more of those curvature lines, which really help. They make the limb look a lot more 3D. So we can cover the toes with these scales. And the scales actually continue up, right about to there, in the reference image. Let me get my hand out of the way. Okay, so the leg is pretty much complete. I'm really happy with how it turned out, especially since I was super scared when I first started it because of the angle. Didn't know if I was going to be able to make it look good, but it's satisfactory right now, so we can move on to the tail. So the tail is always like one of the easiest, but sometimes kind of boring parts to draw on our dinosaur. Be sure to put in the midline down the middle of the tail, splitting it. And then below the midline is going to be pretty much shaded in. Not completely black, but you know, pretty dark. I might actually record a few videos of Jurassic World the Game at some point soon. They've changed the game a lot since the last time I played it. Last time I played it was like in 2017 or something. So we'll see if I still have my skills to be able to take on opponents in battle. Also, since I re-downloaded the game, I do not currently have T-Rex, which is kind of sad, because I feel like everyone should have T-Rex in that game. Now they give out T-Rex at like level 55. They used to give it out at like when you were at level 22 or something. So now T-Rex is like, you have to get it later in the game. I'm currently at level like 35, I think. I don't know, we'll see. So at this point we're just adding a bunch of wrinkles. And it may look like we're almost done, but we still have to do some coloring in. I'm gonna bring out that yellow pencil. So if you want to, you can pause the video right about now and search for your favorite color. It can be anything. You could draw red stripes, blue stripes, I don't care, whatever type of stripes you want. And we'll bring our dinosaur to life with color. The rest of it is like gray and white anyways, so it's actually going to be kind of accurate. But before we color it in, I really want to put in the ground, because otherwise it'll just look like it's floating, as I've said in many of my past tutorials. So let's draw some ground here. You don't want to get too sloppy with the ground, even though it seems like it's really easy to draw. You want to make it look nice and flat. Don't get cheap on me, Dodson. So that looks pretty good, and it also serves like a shadow. Alright. So let's get out our colored pencils. I've got my yellow pencil right here, and I will begin with the face. This is just like a classic color pencil. I just had it in my pencil box, so it's not anything special. I know a lot of you guys are wondering what type of gear I'm using, but it's better if you just experiment and find out what you like best, you know? Because every artist likes different materials. Oh, the stripes look really cool. And I like this color a lot. It's pretty much the exact color of the Generation 2 Indominus Rex in the game, so tried to match it correctly. Even though I'm not the best with colors, I can get pretty close usually trying to match a color, but I know some people who are really good at it. I'm not sure if it's true, but I've heard someone said that like girls are better at it than boys, but I'm not sure if that's true. I like telling colors apart and stuff. Also, have your eraser handy. There are a few spots here that we can clean up that will make your drawing look much better. That looks great once it's cleaned up. I feel like this is going to be a pretty popular video, we'll see. It's like one of those videos that doesn't start off really popular, but like over the years gets a bunch of views. Like some videos I didn't plan for them to get popular and they just did like eventually. And I'm like, no, I'm so embarrassed because sometimes like it's not a good drawing, you know, that becomes popular. Like the how to draw Tarbosaurus, I think, has like over 50,000 views, and that wasn't even a good drawing. I was just looking at it the other day, I was like, this is not a good drawing at all. It's like a simple, quickly drawn dinosaur drawing, but it's got so many views. I'm like, this is not a good representation of my channel. Also, my voice is super low, or I mean super high in a bunch of my old videos, and it sounds so weird. I'm going to leave those videos up because it's fun to see how I've changed since I started the channel. Okay, so I'm going to actually add color into the leg stripes, even though it's not like this in the reference image. You know, an interesting challenge would be is to like open Jurassic World the Game and go to like the pen of your creature and then try and draw it while it's like moving. That would be kind of interesting. They're like relatively still, but they do like move a little bit, you know. Now you can position it in whatever position you want, whatever angle you want at least, and then draw it like that. Alright guys, it looks really, really cool. I really hope you guys have enjoyed this tutorial. I've had a great time drawing this. It is time to sign our drawings. I will sign mine in the corner here. And it is now 2022, so be sure to put in the date. If you guys have enjoyed this video or found it helpful, be sure to leave a big thumbs up. Comment below what you think I should draw next from like Jurassic World the Game, Camp Cretaceous, or Jurassic World Dominion. It can be whatever, just comment below and I will add it to my list. And with that being said, I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.